Hello everyone, I'm MrBKainX, and I'm joined here by admin B.H, and we are reviewing the 7th episode of Avatar The Last Airbender, the Spirit World, parentheses, Winter Solstice Part 1, close parentheses. So, BH, what did you think of this episode?
So I guess overall, just looking at it from like the entire perspective of the show, it's probably not one of my favorites. It's one of those early book one water episodes that doesn't really catch my attention too much. I sort of like afterwards, like looking back onto it. But there are some things I definitely like about it. I I don't particularly. I mean, I definitely like the Zuko and Uncle Iroh subplot. I think that's done very well. It's nice to see them build their relationship a little bit because we don't see too much of it prior to this. So it's definitely nice to get some development there, and then of course going forward. And then I think with the Aang plot, I definitely like the idea behind like how they set up the next episode. So like they set it up where you see Roku's dragon before you see Roku. I think that sets up his sort of like reveal a little bit like better than than just setting it up and being like, okay, we're just gonna show Roku and it's gonna be it. No, we're gonna show you his dragon and we're kind of lead you into him seeing him in person next one. So it kind of sets him up as this sort of like god sort of like figure, or, like higher up being. So actually, I really like that about this one. And then I guess I do like the fact that Aang is connected to like the natural world and nature, and um, giving the acorn to the spirit. So I definitely like that. And of course, Heibai is a very cool design. Um, and there's definitely some funny moments in it with Sokka. But just a few negatives. I guess the concept of the spirit world is kind of confusing in this one, in that we don't really know where Aang is. Yeah, it's definitely confusing. And then I would say that, and I get, yeah, it's really just that when I think about it, it's because I mean, and then it being a little bit separate from the next part in the fact that its own sort of it has its own sort of story. Like it's in the other two parters going on from here. They're all kind of like like woven together nicely, like Boiling Rock and Day of Black Sun and um, the desert and the library. They're all kind of woven better. I feel like this one's a little bit detached from its second part. But overall, it's not a bad episode. I definitely like it more than King of Amashu, which I was a little bit critical of. But overall, yeah, it's a good episode.
Mm. So yeah, I share the feelings of definitely when I look back at this one, it doesn't catch my attention as much, and it's probably one of the weaker episodes of the series. And just the spirit world, I think it not only doesn't really fit well with future representations of spirits in the spirit world, not even in Korra, but also like just later this season in the book one finale, we see the spirit world. Um, and it's just in general feels like a bit of a weird and not particularly clear introduction to spirits in the spirit world. So I feel like that's part of the stuff that drags it down. Is that it's introducing this stuff, but not very effectively. We talked about it a lot as we were watching it,
Hmm.
and I don't want to like rag on too much, but we know it's the winter solstice, and or actually, it's not technically the winter solstice yet. It is getting close to the winter solstice, so the human spirit worlds are closer. So, and the episode is called Spirit World, and Aang says he's in the spirit world, um, but he's not really in the spirit world, or at least the best way to understand it is not really in the spirit world. Sokka's in the spirit world. We don't see him when, like, Aang is running around. He's probably in the legitimate spirit world. Aang's in some sort of, perhaps, winter solstice special limbo astral projection thing. Even though it's called the spirit world again. So, yeah, not. Of course, when you're like early into a television show and a fantasy series, you don't have everything mapped out the best. So I don't want to be too harsh. Um, but it doesn't fit well moving forward. And even if you fit it in or try and like rationalize it, I don't think it's like a particularly good way to introduce spirits in the spirit world either. I do like Heibai though. I like Heibai as like a spirit character, and I like how he comes back to help Aang later. But the actual stuff about the spirit world and how we're introduced to that, I don't think is done very well here. And it's also worth noting that, I mean, we get the joke from Sokka, and, like, Katara is seen feeling bad, but Katara and Sokka do, like, basically nothing in this episode. I mean, okay, not to be too harsh, Sokka does, like, try and help out, but they really do nothing, and it's a shame, because, I mean, you compare this to, like, Warriors of Kyoshi, where, like, all of Team Avatar, you know, had more to do character-wise and get good moments. Compared to this, it's like, I don't know, they're just sort of there. Or, I mean, Sokka at least has the excuse of not being there. So, I mean, it's a bit of, it's understandable to focus on the protagonist, but it is a bit of the shame that, we don't really see these other two main characters involved in the plot that much. And the Zuko side plot, I agree, is nice. It's nice to see Zuko care about Iroh. It's nice to, like, hear a bit about the siege. That works well for what it is. Let me think. Oh, were you gonna say something?
No, I mean, yeah, definitely. I would agree with most of what you said. And then I definitely like the lore they kind of throw in there about Ba Sing Se, and even about the comet. Obviously, that's a big plot point going forward. Um, and I like I guess I don't know, just like the spiritual part of the show where I guess I don't know if it's a reference to spirit bending in a sense where Fang kind of like touches Aang's forehead, and then like he's able to see like the uh like his past memories of the comet, or Roku's memories of the comet, whatever. Or I don't know, sort of
Or,
like
well, I
that
mean,
sort of,
it's a vision of the comet. Roku wouldn't
yeah, right. He
have
didn't
a
see,
memory because he'd
yeah, he was dead.
be dead.
Yeah,
He'd
but
be
like
too
yeah,
busy being dead.
but
I know what
I
you
don't know.
mean, though. Yeah,
I
so I
kind of
mean,
like that. And
yeah.
then like how it goes into the finale. I'm not gonna bring up the finale, but it kind of justifies that a little bit better, I feel. Just because like with the whole lion turtle, like how Aang's able to sort of like interact with him without actually seeing him. Like he can kind of just hear his voice. So I don't know. I just like that kind of.
Yeah, it's a nice. I mean, we see that the Avatar helping the natural world,
Yeah,
and sort of the natural world wanting to help Aang is a
yeah,
part of the show.
hmm
And like, even though I would say it's definitely not the best introduction to spirits in the spirit world, like I said, Heibai is nice, and what we see of the spirit of Roku's dragon Fang is pretty cool. It's nice to see dragons for the first time in the show.
yeah,
And it gives a nice little setup for the next episode, I guess. Gives you something to look forward to.
yeah. And I guess like the color palette choice too. I guess was a little confusing because like the spirit world, we never see that blue kind of spiritual form again. We always see Aang he looks pretty much the same when he goes in the spirit world, and the Avatar and the Fire Lord, and in the Winter Solstice Part Two. So it's like kind of weird, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's I guess, yeah, I
yeah.
don't know if they had it
So
figured out. I guess really, from what we know with both series now, it is more comparable to
Jinora, right? Yeah.
Jinora's astral projection, where your body's in the physical world and your spirit leaves your body, but you're still in the physical. Your spirit is still in the physical world. You're not going to the spirit world, and that sort of like works in line with the concept of, even though Aang says, "Oh, you can't bend in the spirit world," what we now know sort of makes sense in that you can't. Bending is something physical as well as spiritual, so you can't bend when it's just your spirit without your physical body. Whether you meditated into the spirit world or whether your spirit has left your body for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And like if you physically enter the spirit world, you have your bending, whereas if you spiritually enter, you don't. So, yeah. I guess don't mean to be too harsh on the episode, though personally, I think I'd probably disagree with your assessment of it being worse than King of Omashu. Just
Oh,
because I
okay.
think, um, I mean, they're both sort of on like some of the weaker end, but I think just King of Omashu, I think had a lot of like, it had a good amount of like funny moments and just other things that I think make it stick out as a bit more memorable. I liked like the fight scenes and or like the fight between Aang and Boomy, and I liked just the character of Boomy as well as the city of Omashu. So I mean, personally, I don't have all 61 episodes rank, but
I'm trying to do that.
yeah, that would be cool to do after we finish this.
Yeah, rank all
But
62.
um,
61? 62?
it's 61, 20 in
60,
seasons 1 and 2, and 21 in season
20.
3.
Okay, yeah.
Um, but I have this as my third worst episode. But we'll get to the we'll get to the worst one pretty soon, and we'll get to the second worst one probably in a long while. But yeah, just cause in some ways it's like it it's it's a poor introduction to the spirit world, and even that aside, it's I don't know. I'm conflicted because it has these things that I pointed out that I like to some extent, but it's also
Mhm.
just kind of forgettable in many ways. And I feel like even compared to other book one minor episodes, like those do a lot better. Like Warriors of Kyoshi, even though you could argue like it isn't as this introduces us to the spirits and the spirit world and foreshadows the comet. You could argue it's more important than Warriors of Kyoshi, but I feel like Warriors of Kyoshi is a much better book one episode.
Oh, yeah,
And
totally. Yeah.
better writing, better everything. And something like Imprisoned to the previous episode as well, I think is another like
Yeah.
just sort of book one, visit a town episode, but I think it's much better.
Yeah, I
Again,
would
not to
agree.
rag too much, there is some stuff to like, and I also like, we didn't mention this, but the very beginning of the episode, the the nice little thing where they jump into the clouds, and Aang is wet, and that's sort of a it's a fun little gag and also explains to kids what clouds are, but it's also works as foreshadowing for the fortune teller.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Oh,
Um, yeah, definitely.
one more thing. I don't know if we fully addressed this too much. We sort of did, but I like the ending. I think it's a sweet ending of like Aang showing Heibai like that the lesson he learned from Katara that
Hmm.
it's sad that the spirit burnt down, but if we work, it is gonna it can regrow. It will come back. Here's an acorn. So yeah. Do you have any other like final thoughts on the episode?
Not really. That's basically it.
All right, yeah. So
Yeah.
this was MrBKainX and B.H. Reviewing episode 7. Come back next week for episode 8, and be sure to subscribe, like the page, comment your thoughts below, all that good stuff.
Bye.